or heed it right into law that they are wanted, they are targeted, they are suspected, they are persons of interest, or they are enemies. None of that occurred. But what do we have occurring with a person who refuses to give his bay'ah to Muawiyah? He's there in that geography. He says, I don't agree with you. I'm not going to pay allegiance to you as a leader. This person, Hajar ibn Adi, Muawiyah turns around and kills him. See, you have two different psychologies at work. And this is a rupture and a break that was represented by the Umayyad dynasty from the standards of the Khilafah. And look at the two opposing sides. During the time of the Khilafah, we had selfless Muslims. We didn't have opportunistic Muslims the way we have them after the Khilafah. Khalid ibn al-Walid, who was like the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the high-ranking general in today's language of the Islamic Armed Forces. Imagine you're the highest-ranking individual in all the armed forces. Word comes down from Al-Medina to him at the war front, you are demoted. You are relieved of your high rank. Now you're just a regular soldier. If we were looking at someone who's selfish, if we are looking at opportunism, if we are looking at someone who's trying to make political capital out of this, he would have gone around and tried to look for supporters against Umar, who gave that order from Al-Medina. He didn't do anything. He went down. Came down from being the commander, from being the highest ranking military officer. He came down and he became a private. Just like any other soldier. We don't find this happening in the military commanders or anything equivalent to it, parallel to it, happening among the military commanders in an era of opportunism when the Khilafah was no longer a Khilafah and became a monarchy. One of the details of this history is, and it hasn't been identified very clearly by us, even though we have now hundreds of years behind us to take a thorough look at this issue. We have people, brothers and sisters, we're always going to have these types of people. They are pacifists. Even if they see that one opposing side is wrong and the other side is right, they will always say, we will not participate in what they consider to be an Islamic civil war. They cannot see that this primarily was not an Islamic civil war. It was a struggle by a faction to be in control of the Islamic governance. to change the Islamic administration from a khilafah to a monarchy. They couldn't see it that way. There was Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, and there were about 16 who belonged to that circle of people who were close to Allah's Prophet, who refused to participate in the battles that went on, that we spoke about in previous khutbahs. They just refused. You think that this is a part of history that is gone? Anytime we have the same dynamics and factors and details at work, we're going to have this segment of people. Has anyone thought ahead of time and tried to say, when we have this type of people, how we can convince them of taking a principled position against a political deviation that is happening inside our own political house? It hasn't been the case because our mind has been absent from this area for a very long time. The first king in Islam was busy putting out propaganda. One of the instruments of propaganda there was no television, there was no radio, the media that exists today didn't exist then. Or else he would have had the government seize the TV, the radio broadcasting stations, and then begin to play with public opinion. That wasn't the case. So how do you do it at that time? At that time you go to the masajid. In the masajid there were storytellers. See, this is off the Muslim mental radar. We don't know that existed at the time. It did exist. There were storytellers, narrators in the masjid who used to put together some events. They would do it sometimes accurately, and sometimes they do it with intruding information that's not true. This is one of the doors that it is said that we have Isra'iliyat in our Islamic literature. We have Isra'iliyat concerning the tafsir of the ayat of the Quran. We have Isra'iliyat that have been elevated to the degree of hadith. How did these Isra'iliyat, how did they enter our Islamic sources and our Islamic literature? One of the doors, one of the entrances was these full-time storytellers who were in the masajid. The order comes from the highest office that you should begin to present the issue of Al-Jamal, the issue of Siffin, these issues from the governmental perspective. And that's what they began to do. And now we had a public opinion. Besides, one of the first things, when the Muslims had their first king, one of the first things that was legislated, put into law in the masajid, was the condemnation of Imam Ali and his family. This became a weekly denunciation of the opposite political side, now institutionalized in the masajid.